Hey, what's going on YouTube? Gary here, gzduel, here to bring you guys the deck profile of my Lightray deck, and it's going to be, Lightray and no Chaos, because actually I decided to take out BLS and take out Chaos Sorcerer. You guys will see I'm trying to limit the scope of what I want to do and what I can do successfully, so that we don't end up with a bunch of dead cards. So without further ado, let me just get into the deck profile. For the monsters, we have a lot of monsters. We have 2 Tragodia, 3 Lightray Gearfried, 3 Lightray Diablos, 1 Gore's Emissary of Darkness, 3 Lightray Daedalus, 2 Thunder King Ryo, 3 Lightsworn Lila, 1 Honest, 3 Lightsworn Lumina, 2 Tour Guide, 2 Card Trooper, 1 Night Assailant, 2 Maxi, 3 Raikou, 3 Effect Veiler. For the spells, we have 3 Solar Recharge, 1 Heavy Storm, Dark Hole, Pot of Avarice, Monster Reborn, and the Charge of the Light Brigade. It's pretty straightforward. We play no traps in the main deck because we end up milling things, so it's kind of useless anyway. And for the side deck, we have 3 Electric Virus. I'll show you guys how great this is. 2 Puppet Plants, 3 Drone Lockbird, 2 Night Beam, 3 MST, and 2 Soul Drain. Extra deck we have for the Synchro Monsters, Crimson Blader, and Stardust Radiance Dragon. And for the Exceed Monsters, we have the Master of Blades, Drago Sack, 1 Big Eye, 1 Gemini Pearl, 1 Black Ship of Corn, 1 Diamond Direwolf, 1 Starleash Paladynamo, 1 Maestroke Symphony de Jin, 1 Gaga Cowboy, 1 Acid Golem, 1 Leviathan Dragon, 1 Leviair, and lastly we have the Zenmaze. Okay, so let me talk about why I decided to just play Lightrays, no Judgment Dragon, and no Chaos Monsters. The whole reason why is because you end up with a lot of dead cards. If you want to play the Lightsworn engine, and you want to play things like 3 Judgment Dragon, what you'll end up having to do is put in like random Lightsworn monsters that you necessarily may not want to have. So for example, you may draw into a Jane, the Lightsworn Paladin, or you might draw into Aaron, or you might draw into like Shire, and you just really don't want to use those cards in your hand. You might want to discard them, or you might want to like mill them from the deck, but often that doesn't really happen, and if you draw into them, that's one less card that you have to work with. Sure, of course, they're inherently, able to mill cards from the deck, but you have a lot of that already. If you just run the basic Lightsworn engine with 3 Lumina, 3 Lila, plus the 3 Raikou, and you have the 2 Card Troopers to help you mill stuff as well. Plus you have the 3 Solar Recharge and 1 Charge of Light Brigade. I feel like running extra Lightsworn monsters is just a bit superfluous. And at the same time, if you run 3 Judgment Dragons, what ends up happening is you may draw into like 2 of those in the first turn, and then those things end up dead. And you really can't. It's so restrictive actually to have 4 different Lightsworn monsters with different names. It's actually harder than it is for these Lightray monsters, which requires 5 different light monsters with different names. Because those things you can mill like Thunder King, it would count as 1. You can mill something like Raikou, or you can even use an Effect Veiler from your hand. It'll count as like 1 light target for their cost to summon. So really, Lightsworns with the Judgment Dragon is just too restrictive, and you'll end up with a lot of dead draws most of the time. I also note that we don't play, what is that called? The Time Lord thingy, the Cephalon Time Lord, where if you have like 10 monsters or more, you can special summon this from your hand, 4,000 attack. Yeah, that just takes way too long, really. The whole deck is 42 cards, right? And of the 42 cards, we have only 8 cards that are spells. So, of course, there's like a lot of monsters, like almost 30 something. But like, really, if you think about it, to mill 10 monsters into the graveyard and then to have that Cephalon in your hand is just really rare. And if you begin with a Cephalon, you really can't do with it until you can't do much with it until like very late game. So that's why I don't play that as well. On top of the Lightsworns, we also don't play any Chaos. Of course, Chaos is definitely good, and I'm playing like Traces of Dark monsters in here. I play the 2 Tragodia, the Gores, the Tour Guide engine, that's 6 dark targets. But at the same time, if you draw into a Lightray Sorcerer first turn, sorry, not Lightray Sorcerer, Chaos Sorcerer first turn, and then you take like ages to mill something like Tragodia, or if you take ages to play something like Gores, or if you like draw into Tour Guide and you go into Zen mains, you don't necessarily always get those. Granted, you don't always get the Chaos monsters as well. You don't get BLS all the time. You don't get like Chaos Sorcerer all the time. But I feel like that's just really inconsistent. To only have 6 dark targets in a deck of 42, and to have milled them or to have used them, versus like the 2 cards that you have to that benefit from them, the BLS and the Chaos Sorcerer, is really not worth it. However, I did rather keep the dark elements into the deck. I wanted to keep the Tragodia because you don't play any traps, and there's like a really high possibility of your opponent trying to OTK you. And plus, Tragodia is very versatile because it can go for a rank 7 exceed if it copies a level 7 monster in the graveyard. So that's really good. And at the same time, Gores is pretty good. It's already level 7, and it generates a token, and you can synchro with the token with the Tour Guide. No, not Tour Guide. Sorry, the Effect Veiler that you have. And the Gores is 2,700 attack. It's pretty good on its own. We also played Tour Guide engine. The primary reason why you play Tour Guide is because you hate Ophion. Like, you hate Ophion with a passion. After milling all of these cards, right, and then you're setting up for your graveyard, and your opponent's like, oh, he's playing some Lightsworn, Lightray, Chaos deck, I should probably go for Ophion and shut down all of his plays instantaneously. No Gores, no Tragodias, no Lightray monsters get summoned. All you have to work with are these Thunder Kings, which can't get over really huge Ophion. So what you do is, of course, you can go to your outs like the 3 Raikou. You can use Raikou. You can have the Honest as an out, and you can have the Tour Guides as an out, or you can have the Night Assailant itself. If you set Night Assailant, he attacks into it. Night Assailant's effect can destroy Ophion as well. Granted, he doesn't have Safe Zone or stupid stuff like that. But there are several outs in the main deck for Ophion, so that's why Tour Guide just adds to it. The Tour Guide engine just adds to like 2 more extra outs. So that's why I play that. And also, Lumina could also be an out to the thing as well. Lumina can discard another card to special summon another Lumina from the graveyard, and then you can go for a rank 3 exceed. You can attack over the Ophion with something like Acid Golem, or you can sit on his end mains. So, I considered playing against Ophion as well. So that's it for the main deck. There's nothing really I want to talk about. I've run 3 Veilers because you mill them a lot, and Veilers are really good against Dragosack, against like the Spellbook Magician, against a whole bunch of other decks. And Max These are not bad as well. Some decks I know it's like against Dragon Rulers, it's almost like, hey, you want to give me 5 extra cards, or do you want to end your turn right now? It's really powerful. Okay, for the side deck, I want to talk about the 3 Electric Virus and how good it is. First of all, it's good because it's able to steal things like, level 7 monsters. Like, you can steal things like Machina Fortress. You can steal things even like all of the Elemental Dragons, which are level 7s. And then you can exceed them with the Lightray monsters that you have. The Diablos and the Daedalus are both level 7s. So you can steal your opponent's Blaster, for example, and then you can just overlay for your own Dragosack, or you can overlay for your Master of Blades, and it would be really detrimental to the opponent who's playing some dragons. And Electric Virus is also a light target, so you discard this to the graveyard. It counts as 1 extra light monster with a different name in your graveyard, thus allowing you to summon out your Lightray monsters that much easier. And Electric Virus can steal things like Dragosack, so that you can use Dragosack's effect to get yourself 2 tokens, and then tribute Dragosack himself to destroy something on your opponent's side of the field. So that's why Electric Virus is in here. It is also possible to steal things like Lagia, Doka, and also Ophion. So it's really versatile. That's why I like it a lot. And we're going to talk about Puppet Plant. Puppet Plant is something I recently considered playing, especially after the spell books. They tried to change the way they play, and what I mean is they don't really rely on Priestess anymore. They rely on Jowgen. They rely on things like the Kaiku, the monk of whatever. And what's the best way to get rid of them is to puppet plant it, steal it from their side of the field to your side of the field. Because most likely when they end up with Jaugen or when they end up with the Kaiku, what they have in the back row is the Spellbook of Fate, obviously. So it's going to be sufficient protection for them. So if you steal it, however, there's nothing for them to protect. So Puppet Plant is like that one card out. And of course, the 3 drone lockbirds against things like Prophecy, against things like Exodia, even against things like Dragons. And we have a lot of back row hate with the 2 Night Beam and the 3 MST. I find that this deck really loses the heavy back row decks. Even though you already inherently have 3 Lilas, the Lilas require you to normal summon, so it's not as fast as you would like. And if you normal summon Lila and hoping that you destroy back row, but you really want to mill 3 cards as well, you know, it's not really helpful if they destroy it or bottomless it, right? And lastly, we have the 2 Soul Drain. The Soul Drain isn't that bad. The Soul Drain really works well against Mermails, against like Dragons, but I had to cut it down to 2 because what ended up happening was it didn't have space for the Puppet Plants, so decided that this was the best thing to cut out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. This is Gary GZ Duels, signing out.